Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unqualified Film Bros. Tonight we are talking about what we just watched, which is MaXXXine.
Great start.
Yeah, thank you. Um, this was the third movie in the trilogy of T West, X, Pearl being the past two. This is the sequel to X, as opposed to Pearl, which was a prequel. Um, I think this is the final one in his trilogy. I don't think he is planning to do anything else.
He is actually.
Uh,
He
oh,
said that
is he?
depending on the reception and box office return of MaXXXine, he would consider doing a fourth.
Okay.
It
I
seems
kind of like.
pretty likely that he's gonna do one.
It's. I mean, yeah, it's fine. I kind of like trilogy. It's just a nice number. But obviously, all these movies sort of subvert the tropes of the genres. They pay homage to some era of filmmaking. Obviously, X was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This one, I'm curious if you guys understand the references because I know you probably haven't watched these movies. So
I'm gonna pass right away. You know I haven't seen these movies.
I don't know if I would either. I mean, trying to think if there's anything that like stood out to me, but no.
Mulholland Drive.
it's both in Hollywood. I'll give you that.
Hollywood thriller.
These are this is an homage to, I mean, 80s slashers, but more particularly giallo movies. Um, you have like the guy in all black, who's the killer, wearing black leather, black hat. That's a staple of giallo cinema, and it's appropriate that they included the Bates Motel set because giallo pretty much takes what Hitchcock started and expands on it more into their own, lane. But it has a lot of its roots in Hitchcock. But I really enjoyed that aspect because I love giallo movies. Suspiria is one of my favorites. Dario Argento is a great filmmaker. Um, but I honestly thought, though the movie was good, I really could have used a little bit more of the giallo. Like in the beginning, it's got it down really well, but there aren't enough, Hitchcock stuff, point of view shots. There isn't enough thrill for me. Where in a giallo, you have that thrill, that suspense, and it's kind of like I wonder if the subversion of expectations is going against it because you do want, Maxine to be the hero, not the victim. But it did lose a little bit for me. But what did you guys think?
Um, well, you know that I'm dipping my toe into horror and slasher movies
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more.
I mean, this is
Um,
less of a slasher, more of
it's it honestly. Well, I was just gonna get into that. It feels more like an action thriller, not necessarily an action.
yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Um,
Sorry, I just thought I'd include some thrills for you.
I was sufficiently thrilled, Benjamin. Um, I think it was more a thriller than a slasher or horror movie, which probably makes it. And I haven't seen Pearl, but compare it with X, and it's probably more accessible for non-horror fans than X was.
Pearl
But
is, I'd say, pretty accessible actually. It's a little,
I still need to watch Pearl then.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like
eh,
20 minutes into Pearl. I didn't have time to finish it, but I watched X this morning.
they're all enjoyable. I
I,
like
I
them all.
think Maxine in X is not your typical final girl for a horror movie or for a
No,
slasher
no.
movie,
I mean, that is the entire point, right?
but that's the entire point. And now for this movie, I think it follows a more standard narrative thread for like a mystery suspense movie. And with the opening sort of sequence with the clip of her as a child talking to her father off screen, and then the phony night stalker tearing the upside down cross earring out of the guy's ear, you had to know that the killer was going to be her father. That was probably the most predictable thing I've seen in in two of these three movies. But despite that, as a mystery sort of suspense thriller, I found it enjoyable, entertaining, absolutely, but not as artistically excellent as X was. I thought X was a lot stronger artistically.
I think this has some really good moments. I just feel like
It does.
not. It kind of sputters out at times where it doesn't really complete that scene. I mean, giallos are really famous for their like uncanniness, or not uncanny, like uneasiness. The ambiance, especially the lighting, they got the lighting down pretty well. Certain reds and stuff that you would always see, especially Dario Argento used Technicolor. Obviously, they didn't have Technicolor, but I thought they did a great job using the lighting. And I mean, past a certain point, it's a little too like, I don't know, confused by her whole Hollywood plot. I would have liked more.
It tries to do too many things.
I would have liked more of thrills, like more suspense. I mean, seeing her like fall into, you know, this world of weird Hollywood stuff rather than like kind of dip her toes in and then like come out and then dip her toes back in. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I would have liked more intrigue or something. I mean, it makes sense for the father to be the overall villain. That's very giallo. They're always dealing with like sexual insecurities, sexual, formational stuff, psychological stuff that happened in their youth, and always having like videotapes or dream sequences or something like that to go back and reflect on that. That's also very giallo-esque. But it just didn't have enough. They're also very famous for the point of view shots, like what you see in, you know, Psycho or whatever. And I think those are perfect because it gives you a weird, like, look into something rather than it being shot by a camera, almost like you're stalking the person. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite things, so maybe I'm biased, but I could have used a little bit more of it actually going for the genre that it was aiming to be an homage to.
I think, I mean, that's something that kind of came through for me in X, like very clearly. And even in the little bit of Pearl that I've seen, a lot of the homages have come through too. And like have been pretty noticeable, right? They're not trying to hide them. And I don't think they're trying to hide them necessarily in MaXXXine. It
No,
just,
I mean, they have the guy in full black leather. They're clearly trying to do some of the tropes, but it kind of like sputters out and turns into, I don't know, Eyes Wide Shut or something. It just doesn't.
Didn't Mia Goth say during the press junket that she went to an Eyes Wide Shut type party to prepare herself for this film? Did you guys read that somewhere? I feel like I read that somewhere.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
But I got very much not to the.
I mean, it really is less
psychological depths of something like Eyes Wide Shut for this, but I could see the influence.
It's more of just a cult. The Eyes Wide Shut thing is really just, it's a mysterious house all the way, you know, isolated. It's kind of like the ambiance much more than the plot.
But so the through lines in inspiration are very clear.
Yeah. Also, giallo typically delves into the supernatural a little bit. I mean, even if it's not playing it for real, it has some supernatural character, some mystic or psychic. It's missing some of the pieces, I think.
Well, that's
As
a
someone that
good
has
thing
watched a lot of
for
Jello. Huh?
for me. That's a good thing for me because I can deal with psychological movies. I can deal with thrills. I can deal with suspense. The minute you start going supernatural, I'm out.
Oh my God.
But who
So
knows?
ridiculous.
I never thought I would watch X or MaXXXine
Yeah. I'm
or
gonna make
Pearl
you
for
keep
that
watching
matter,
these movies because
and now I've seen them. So
were you scared? Did you need somebody to hold your hand?
yeah, Ben, I wish you had been there. You always make me feel
Just
safe.
just watch the movies. I guarantee you, you're braver than
No,
you
I
think.
I was by neither X nor Maxine. I was not scared.
But yeah, I mean they aren't meant to be scary movies, but still. A lot of supernatural stuff. Like Jello movies, I wouldn't consider them. Well, they are scary, but they're more creepy. They're they make you uneasy. They're the only movies I've seen a lot of horror movies, but they make you uneasy. This one, I don't know. I feel like just the whole idea behind his movies is kind of working against this genre in particular, and that you kind of want to feed fear in a giallo movie. And slashers, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like you're kind of rooting for the killer the entire time anyway. I mean, you're
Ben, I
not
think that might just be
fear.
you, pal.
No,
I
I mean, I get
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah,
Like,
it's
I
not
mean,
just me.
in X especially, like they're pretty decent people, and like a lot of the slasher films that I think of, like you don't necessarily get like characters that are about to get killed that you're like kind of rooting for. At least
Oh,
they're not like
they
pieces of
purposely
shit.
write them like
Yeah,
idiot or jerks or people
yeah.
that you want dead.
Like they're kind of decent people that are trying to help this old couple that ends up stabbing them a whole bunch of times. Like,
They have
not
unnatural.
rooting for the old couple here. Like,
Yeah, no, nobody's rooting for
I
the
was
old
rooting for
couple.
Kid Cudi. That was about it.
so true.
Yeah, it's day and night for
He
him.
was a
Unfortunately.
producer on this film. I noticed in the credits.
Yeah, he likes T West. I think he's into this stuff. He's into weird stuff
Yeah,
like this.
more power to him.
Yeah, I'm glad he's recovered from his manic episodes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I enjoyed the
Well,
movie.
come on, Ben. We've only been going for about 10 minutes.
Well, you guys haven't been going.
All right. Um, yeah, I'll pick it up, I guess. Um, yeah, I think a lot of the praise that I have for this movie comes from the entertainment value. I was captivated by the story. Again, since I'm so new to this genre, all of the slasher movies I see are pretty refreshing from a narrative standpoint, just because I haven't been exposed to that much. Um, from a production design standpoint, I love the way that West creates this 80s Hollywood sort of grungy LA meets glitz and glamour of Hollywood, or middle Hollywood, we'll say. Um, for the presentation, the sets are fantastic. I mean, driving around through the back lots and that whole chase sequence with Kevin Bacon, that was the most fun part of the movie for me. Was seeing those two, Mia Goth and Kevin Bacon, running all through the
Kevin Bacon was definitely having fun.
yeah. It was funny because I had just seen, I guess 2 days before I went to the theater to see MaXXXine, I had seen Beverly Hills Cop 4, the new Netflix movie, which Kevin Bacon is also in, and he is also a villain. So to see him, and he's always gonna be Kevin Bacon. especially at this point in his career. But he had some villainous range there between the two characters, and his character here, and I'm sort of rambling a little bit, but seeing him in this role, Ben, you're absolutely right. He was just having a ton of fun.
Have you ever
And the
seen
same,
Tremors? You should watch the horror movie Tremors. He's got a great line. He says, "Now is it just what the hell is going on here?"
it's a good line.
It's a good line. But the way he says it, it's you'll when you hear it, it'll be like, "Oh my God."
I'll be like, oh my God, Ben does a fantastic impression of Kevin Bacon.
No, I couldn't even begin to do that line. It's just so perfect. It's perfect. That's all I'm gonna say.
But anyway, just speaking of Kevin Bacon having fun, I mean, Michelle Monaghan, Bobby Cannavale, they have good chemistry as police detectives. They're having fun there. Um, I think Elizabeth Debicki was a great character. I could have used more of her, sort of as that outside, more grounded in reality element of Maxine's life. I wanted more of Halsey than the one scene just because I love her music and I think she was a fun character.
She was a victim.
Honestly, Maxine Minx is like the worst character in the movie. Which honestly, I felt like Maxine was the worst character of X2. And I don't know if that's a writing thing or a performance thing from Mia Goth. I didn't find her to be someone worth rooting for in either movie.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, then let Max respond.
She's the best part of the movie, but she's the best part of all the movies, but
Yeah.
George, I think you're just wrong on this one. I'm sorry.
So it's just another episode of the pod with Ben telling me I'm wrong about something.
I mean, it's not just me though. This time, it's not just me. Like,
Yeah, fair.
I mean, I don't know how you can look at her performance and say it's the performance. And I don't know how you can look at the writing and say that it's the writing. I mean, I think she's an incredibly dynamic character, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
she even does the damn like
Maxine.
What?
More, I would say more so as a dynamic character in X than Maxine.
I'd say she's pretty dynamic in Maxine as well. I mean,
Great,
she's struggling with grief and stuff.
I mean, I think what I really see is that you see her kind of teetering between the two lives of like, okay, is she actually going to become a movie star, or is she going to sort of fulfill the prophecy of Pearl and go down that path, right? Like
Yeah.
you kind of know which way it's going to lean by the end of the movie if you hadn't already figured it out, but like there's always that uncertainty, and I think that's what kept it really interesting. And I feel like you have to write it that way, and Mia Goth, she delivered on that performance.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I missed the point then. The
I
point of
mean,
the character.
I get it, George. She's a strong, independent woman who
Okay,
kills every man. But
I mean, you see it with Elizabeth Debicki's character though too, right? I mean, she has that
Yeah.
same hunger and the same passion, but she's channeled that into her work and her artistry. Like,
it's also
what
one of
is
those things where it's like it's a reverse of what you see in a lot of movies, where like the men will eat you alive or the killer will eat you alive. In turn, the people who would be victims are the ones who need to become almost that monster. And they start with the quote, right? With the Betty Davis quote. You haven't become a star until everyone knows you as a monster. I mean, it is kind of part of it. And it's also it works with the Hollywood thing too, which is a lot of people say you have to be cutthroat in Hollywood. You know, you have to step on other people's toes.
Says it in the movie.
Yeah. But it fits with the themes. They both work together pretty well. And also, that's her performance, right? I mean, she's cutthroat, but not without some sort of, connection with what was that guy's name? The guy that did the video store.
I don't remember.
Leon?
Yeah, him. Whoever he was, she had a connection. We don't, but yeah, I mean, you could see it. I thought it was a great performance from her. She has moments of weakness, moments of tenderness, and then moments of rage and stubbornness to live and to live her life and to get the life that she deserves.
It's always when her back is against the wall too. Like you see it in
Yeah.
X, towards the end when she,
Corner.
yeah, and then in the alley in MaXXXine.
When she
that was a
That was insane. Holy shit.
brutal scene. I saw that and I
that was
went for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe the entire movie. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it.
I had blocked
He
that
deserved
scene
it, though.
and now you brought it back. So
He
thank you for
deserved
that.
it. He deserved it, to
Yeah.
be fair. But
Yeah. Still, thank you for doing that, T West. Thank you for doing that, buddy.
feminism, baby. I do also like that he put in Richard Ramirez as like a red herring. Just be like, hey, there's another killer around. He kills people too. I don't think it was necessary in the movie, but I more of the fact that I was happy it wasn't Richard Ramirez or something like that. Because I was really worried that was going to be the killer, and I was like, "What? What's the point?"
I had the same thought until the upside down cross earring was torn out of the ear from Leon. I think you said his name was
Leon. Yeah, I hope it's Leon.
At that moment, I realized that it was her father. Just because of the religious undertones of everything that had happened to that point.
Yeah.
But I think to give us a red herring, to give us something as sort of a misdirect, is a strong writing choice to make. I think in a genre like this, to deliberately miss an audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a red herring, right? It's a red herring from the trailer. Like, once you get to the movie, 10 minutes in, you realize that this guy, because Kevin Bacon keeps talking to him, he's like, I didn't know a big time Hollywood producer would, do things like this. Richard Ramirez was not a big time Hollywood producer. Also, I don't know. I have questions with this father. How did he get there? Did he just start a cult or something? And then he got into Hollywood? What happened? That is the only thing that I'm like,
you need more exposition than a 5-minute back, flashback at the beginning of the movie.
But how did he get that much money? How did he acquire this wealth?
I mean, he funneled it through a religious organization, and he was a televangelist. Like, he's gonna make a shit ton of money, and he's gonna do whatever he wants with it.
I guess.
I don't know.
They were just talking to him like he was actually, David Zaslav or something. I was hoping the killer was gonna be David Zaslav.
You are rooting in every movie that we talk about. You are rooting for David Zaslav to be the villain of The Fall Guy.
Kind of was.
Max, play the clip.
He is. I mean, look, I just want to see a horror movie where he dies. Is that too much to ask?
I think he killed
Do the Menu, but for Warner Brothers.
Because that was the end of that movie.
Yeah.
He was also the villain of Batgirl.
He was. And The Flash in some ways.
No,
he sold everyone a lie.
The AI-generated images of Nicolas Cage and Christopher Reeve were the real villains of The Flash.
But he signed off on it. It's his fault. He's the reason. But anyway, back to MaXXXine. Yes, maybe it's a little far-fetched, but yeah, regardless, I guess it's fine. There are a few story beats I just would have liked a little bit better. But overall, the aesthetic, I think, is really, really good. The performances are really, really good. Music, top-notch. I love that they did a very giallo thing and had, like, almost a rock soundtrack. weird rock soundtrack.
It was kind of alt rock, yeah.
That's a Dario Argento thing. He got this band called Goblin to do a bunch of his soundtracks. They were a progressive rock band from Germany, and they're very weird. Good,
Right
but
up
weird.
your alley.
Yeah.
I
But
thought
look,
Giallo was
I love
was-
Giallo, so I do have a special place in my heart for anything that's going to be an homage. Brian De Palma films obviously probably were inspirations too. Those are essentially Giallo films. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. You guys have more to add?
Not really. I mean, I think, it's well done. It's not
We
perfect,
go
but
see it.
it's well done. Yeah.
It's another really,
If he wants
really
to
well.
keep making more, fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, as I try to be a person who enjoys movies like this, I think what we get with MaXXXine is, like you said, Ben, really, really well made. A lot of really good performances. We're sort of, I don't want to say we're getting into the lore. Max, you talked a little bit about the prophecy, I think the word you said, of Pearl or
Well,
whatever.
I mean, it's not really like a prophecy. It was
No,
more just
not a literal one,
yeah.
but like the destiny of being the final girl or whatever. Um, this is kind of, and I hate using this word when it doesn't really apply, but universe of this story, in the world of this story, um, we're sort of getting a better sense through X in this movie, and I assume Pearl as well, of what the, I don't really want to say what the rules are here, but we're sort of getting a sense of what's going to happen in these stories beyond the surface level through these few movies. And
I don't know what that means.
well, I don't really know what I mean either, but
I mean, it's sort of just Mia Goth kills a bunch of people. In every X movie, I'm expecting MaXXXine to survive.
Right, and that's going to be the
formula.
case.
Yeah.
That's going to be exactly that's what I was getting was, we know the formula they're going to follow. We know that we're going to get there, but the how that we've seen in these movies so far, whether T West and Mia Goth make a fourth one, fifth one, whatever, or not.
George, welcome to horror movies. It's kind of
that's literally that's like a quote that he's said recently. It's like, you can't do a horror franchise without doing like a whole bunch of sequels. So I mean, I have every reason to believe that he's gonna make more of these.
Yeah. I think it's fine. As long as he can keep coming up with something new. He's gonna run out of horror homages, but he's got a lot of decades to go through. Got a lot of different subgenres.
Well, exactly. That was exactly what I was about to say. This is a genre that lends itself to, as we've seen in the first couple of movies, homages to what has been done already, but it lends itself to so much creativity and opportunity for new stuff that, even though there has been a pattern so far of, hey, look at what we can do based in ideas that were done 10, 20, 30, 100 years ago, but there's also so much opportunity, like you said, with all these different decades that they can explore. We've already seen them go back to the 1920s with Pearl, and now forward from the late 60s to the 80s with MaXXXine.
I think it's 70s.
It's 70s?
No, it's 85.
I thought it was 85.
In X is 70s.
Oh, X is 70s, yeah.
I don't know why I thought X was 69.
No, it's 79.
79.
79.
MaXXXine
Okay.
doesn't look that old. Come on.
I don't know. I didn't expect her to be in her early 30s in this movie. That was a surprise to me. I thought she was still like mid 20s. But
all right.
whatever. Um,
169 to 85.
I don't know. They mentioned sometime in the 60s in one or both of the movies of this trilogy that I've seen.
Well, I think it wasn't that or
Maybe
like
the flashback
the
was
flashback tape is made in the
early
60s, because she's like 10.
that makes sense. Um, yeah, I think a lot of story potential for future installments.
Yeah.
I think this partnership, I know for fans of this genre like you, Ben, this partnership has been really, really successful creatively in creating movies that you want to see as horror slasher fans.
I
Um,
enjoy it. They're not the only people though. They're not the only good directors. I love Late Night Club. I just watched it again.
yeah, and I keep saying that I'm not generally a fan of this genre, but as I watch more of these movies, I'm coming to appreciate more the artistic value, the creativity, and the sort of imparting of a new feeling that I haven't really experienced much when watching film. That's a value that these movies can bring to an audience. And as someone who wants to make films for the next 50 plus years of my life, it's important to me to be able to understand all of its aspects, not just
Yeah.
the ones chosen by, lighthearted fare.
The other value to horror movies, George, is that they are probably the only genre that is very kind to low budgets. I guess not extremely low budgets, but as long as you have enough.
I made Putt Putt for 7K.
Yeah, but it's a short film, right? 15 minutes.
A 14 minutes, 41 second short.
So in horror, you could probably make
award winning.
What is a award-winning horror movie?
No, because I haven't made one of those yet. I'm doing a dark comedy next. You'd like it.
All right,
It's set at a morgue.
more.
Yeah.
Be honest, are you only calling it a dark comedy because it's in a morgue?
Yeah.
And it's set at night.
At night in a morgue, and it deals with death.
And there are jokes involved.
Comedy and humor and laughter. Yeah. You will get the funnies.
All right. Well, I think we've come off track a little bit. We all pretty much enjoyed MaXXXine. Anything else to add?
No.
All right.
I put it in a tier underneath X, and I'm gonna go watch Pearl probably as soon as we log off.
George, with all respect, none of your rankings for horror movies mean anything.
Okay, let me build up a filmography here. Let me build up a
What you got, like a few, like 10 horror movies under the belt, and you're like, these are my 10. Then you can start ranking. Then I'll trust you a little bit more.
deal.
All right.
I crave your approval, Ben. It's almost as much as I
don't murder me. Do not murder me, please. I don't want that type of horror movie. Not self-made.
All right, Ben, take us home.
Alrighty. Well, what are we doing next week? Twisters or something?
That's 2 weeks. Fly Me to the Moon next week.
Oh, Fly Me to the Moon. All right, we're gonna take a look at Greg Berhalter's strategy to make a movie this time. He didn't do so well with the U.S., but I think maybe it'll be a little bit better. Well, we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.